Welcome to this edition of School Matters. I'm Joni Kopis, and today we have with us two very important guests as we talk about school district finances and state budgets. So we welcome Dr. Glenn Stitzinger, School Board President, and Bob Hancock, our District Treasurer. So welcome, gentlemen. So I guess really the first question, Bob, is really how is the district doing financially?
Well, like any topic, there's good news and there's bad news. And the good news is we had about $2.7 million last year in one-time education job stimulus funds.
That was a federal fund?
That was a federal funding piece from the stimulus funding that we've had over the last few years. That was the last of the stimulus funding, and so therefore we don't have that money this year. So the good news is it allowed us to finish in solid financial footing last year. The flip side is this year we're anticipating $2.1 million less in revenue than we had last year, and that's a challenge.
And you mentioned federal. What is the breakdown percentages of local, state, and federal monies that we receive?
We get 24% of our operating funds from the local taxes. We get 63% of our operating funds from the state. And then we have 13% of our dollars come from the federal.
And Glenn, with 63% coming from the state, we've obviously watched Columbus very closely because as the state goes, so is our school district.
Oh, that's so true. We've been heavily dependent on state funding for a long, long time. And actually over the years it's been increasing, and the local share has been decreasing. And in the last couple of years we're seeing a decrease in property values. So that's certainly going to affect local funding.
Yeah, and you mentioned property values, and you were going to make a comment about that as well.
Yeah, property values have gone down since the 2008 housing crisis. We are helped somewhat by the fact that as values go down, the rates go up, so you collect about what you did in the past, but it is a flat revenue source, whereas in the earlier years, 2003 to 2005 or so, those revenues were growing slightly with revaluation, so that's a revenue stream that's not available right now.
And again, that's local taxes, but this is our second year of the biennial budget, but we've got a new proposed budget for the governor that's coming out soon. So what do we hear out there? How's that going to affect our district? Do we know yet?
Well, we don't know because it hasn't been released at this point, but it will be soon, as you said. And oddly enough, that's an interesting time of every other year.
You enjoy that time of year. Most people don't.
We enjoy it. Yeah, most people don't, but a lot of detail, a lot of reading. You get into the details and see how does it impact your district, and you get the opportunity to speak with your local legislators. And oftentimes we find things in there that they're unaware of how it's going to impact a particular district in their area. So it's a fun process for me, and it's just a lot of interesting work. So we're going to have to look at that and see what does it mean. They're talking about dollars following the student. We'll have to see what does that mean and how does that impact our district.
So Glenn, like Bob said, then this gives us the time to talk to our legislators to say, I understand this part of the bill, but then they get educated on how it impacts their school districts that they represent.
Yes, and we've received a lot of help over the years from those who represent Hamilton, Fairfield, or the entire county. We're also, looking at the governor's new funding formula, which is going to be completely new this year, and no one knows what's in the formula, how it's going to affect individual districts, and so that's going to be released shortly also. We'll be interested to see all the details in there.
And again, with 63% that we rely on state, it's very much important for us to watch and see what's going on there.
Oh, absolutely, because that is the majority of our funding. Very important.
And then Glenn, what the board's challenge to the administration is every year when you cut, which is pretty impressive, but we always try to protect the classroom.
Yes, we do. And one of the things that Bob has done for us over the years is to give us a projection, a 5-year projection, and he's really been very accurate. And especially we look at 2 or 3 years out. And the reason we've been able to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money and stay really off the ballot for a long time for operating dollars is that we always look 2 or 3 years in advance. And if we see a problem developing in that 3rd year, then we make adjustments now. So a small adjustment now will compound itself and eliminate a very serious problem in 2 or 3 years. So that's been one of the ways that we've done that. You're right, we try to stay away from the classroom. We try to look, how can we operate the district more efficiently without affecting the classroom and the classroom teacher. And that's what we've charged our administrators to do. They've done a wonderful job of that. And that's why we've been able to manage money so well for so long.
Well, everybody says we almost do it so easy, it's almost a little scary because we don't want to be one of those districts that all of a sudden you read in the newspaper, you need to cut $6 or $8 million because we do it every year. Hurts a little bit each year, but you don't have those shock headlines.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't want to fall off with that particular financial cliff. And we've seen that happen around the county and around the state. Dr. Sitsinger talks about these incremental adjustments we make, and they total since 2006, when you add them up, and they do accumulate year after year and compound, $45 million that we've avoided in cost by making those cuts each year. And they are in the areas like 65 teaching positions over time, and we do this largely through attrition. Very rarely do we have to go out and actually lay somebody off because we're looking each year and doing it based upon our retirements or people who just happen to leave the district. We've also had 67 non-certificated positions that over those years we've gotten rid of, and 15 administrative positions and 17 supplemental positions. So, you know, we've hit a little bit of every area, and it's helped. The other things that have really helped us recently, our staff took a 3-year pay freeze, and we certainly want to thank them for stepping up to the plate and doing that. On top of that, they increased what they were paying for their medical benefits to 15%. So, you know, they actually had their net pay go down, and they're experiencing that for a 3-year period. Our administrators also took at least a 5-day pay cut. So, you know, everybody has really chipped in and helped keep the district afloat through this tough time.
And again, you don't see that in all districts.
No, and it's really comforting to know that we've got a very professional staff, but those same professionals are willing to work with us when we're experiencing difficult financial times.
And as you said before, it just shows good stewards of the taxpayers' money. I mean, everybody's working together to help the cause. I think another reason, I mean, you know, we talk about, you know, expenditures versus revenues, but I think one thing that's helped us is our enrollment numbers. We seem to increase enrollment, which has helped offset some as well.
Yes, with the building program, the new buildings, you know, we've seen over the last 5-6 years slight increases in enrollment each year, as much as 135 in a year in some of those years, generally something less than that, but that has helped give us some revenue back that we lost. And it hasn't made up for all the revenue, but at least it avoided what it could have been a much worse situation, and we didn't have to make quite the cuts we would have made had we not had those increases. And we think that happens for a couple of reasons. You know, certainly the new buildings attract students. I think we have a dynamic staff that is really working hard to educate all the children in Hamilton. And then I always think that as you have tough economic times, you're going to see more people come into the county seat for services, and you kind of see that trend over the years if you look at the enrollment. Not that it drives it totally, but somewhat. So I think you got 3 factors really driving why your enrollment's increasing, and we're seeing districts around the county that actually have decreases. That would kind of surprise you that those districts have those decreases.
Well, I think also, Glenn, too, we have a lot of innovative programs and programs for just about any type of student.
Yes, we do. We have a really outstanding AP and college prep program that attracts students. We have an outstanding music program. Our band program, orchestra, chorus, are just very, very good. They're high caliber. And we start in the elementary grades with those programs, and I think parents recognize that, that's an art. All of those things are important, and we have really good programs. We also are the only county in the only high school in the county that has a job technical program, and that's at Hamilton High. And so those students can have classes at Hamilton High and also the classes they need in their technical programs, and those are very, very good. So I think all of that together is drawing students to Hamilton.
We have something just for every student out there.
Yes, we do.
So, and Bob, you also talked about the pay freezes, and again, commending all the employee groups. But again, there's a balance here because you look at your salaries. Obviously, we can't be at the high end of the county, but we don't want to be at the low end. So you have to balance how the salaries look at all the county schools as well.
You certainly do. You want to be able to attract and retain your teaching staff and all your staff for that matter. If you look at our teaching staff numbers, You'll find that on the first step of the salary schedule, we are the fourth district in the county, which is kind of a good position to be in. You know, there's 10 districts in the county, so you're kind of in the middle. But when you get to the last step of the salary schedule, we are the 8th district in the county. So, you know, not quite as high there on the end. That, I guess, helps us be competitive financially somewhat as far as keeping our finances good. But again, we're a little low on the end, little right where we want to be on the first step, I would say.
And we always say, I mean, to be a teacher, you have to have the passion too. So it's, and you know, for people to stay, we have people retiring all the time with 30, 35 years from our district. So I think that has to say a lot about our district.
It does, and I think this is really a good place to work. And we have a lot of professional development for our teachers. We support our new teachers. We have mentor programs when they come in the district to work with them the first 2 or 3 years, and that's so important to get them off to a good start. So I think from the very beginning that your teaching career here till the very end, this is a very good place to work.
And another thing we look at too, you always hear, oh, the administrative costs, and there's too many administrators and what have you, but it's interesting because we're not in part of that group that everybody talks about, I think.
Well, again, our administrative costs are the lowest in the county, far below the state average, and we work hard at that. We also have, when you look at our overall cost per pupil, we're kind of right in the middle of the county at $9,191, and again, that's below the state average, which is $10,571, and so we're doing a good job keeping the cost in check, working within our budget, and again, if you look also at the instructional cost on that, you'll find our instructional costs are a larger percentage than most districts. As
I guess they should be. If anything, you want to be in instruction, right?
Yeah, so you certainly want to direct it that way, and you can see that's reflective of our cuts in the past. You know, we've really tried to stay out of the classroom, and as we've done that, we continue to boost that instructional percentage.
And again, we always say we always do more with less, but it truly does become almost our motto, to the good and also to the bad. As I said, it's a double-edged sword sometimes on how we manage all this.
Yes, it is. You know, one of the other things that we come across here in the last 5 or 6 years, and that's technology. And so we've also directed a lot of funds into technology, technology that helps the teacher with the students and also helps the students. So we've got a lot of technology. It's with our new buildings, we have the infrastructure that we can bring in new technology, and that's really an area where we have to spend money these days because, again, it's going to help the students, it's going to help the teachers, and in the end, we're going to get a better product, and that product is a better student.
Well, in what, 1 or 2 years, all the students take their state tests on computers. So you have to start them at an earlier age to learn even how to manipulate the keyboard.
Correct, and you have to have the computers for the students to take the test. And this is going to be, all districts are going to face this starting in 2014.
So we're not alone, it's statewide, so everyone is struggling on how do you get the technology in there, and those could be some high ticket items.
Absolutely.
And another thing too, unfortunately in today's age, you know, our new buildings have a lot of security, we have a lot of security measures, paraprofessionals, you know, buzzers, cameras inside and outside, which again come as a cost, but then you're always looking, you know, and again with different things going on, can we always do, you know, more security? Which again comes at a cost.
Sure does, and we've looked at that recently. We have paraprofessionals in the buildings, and certainly the buildings were built in such a way that the traffic has to flow through the office, and that provides an additional security step. There's cameras and things of that nature, but yeah, we do look at those costs, and are there different ways of doing things, and we'll continue to look at those. You know, certainly security is very important to everybody. Again,
there's a price tag, and you can never put a price tag on life, but everything, you know, comes with a cost, and again, part of our job is to balance everything, and instruction drives everything, but everything else is just as important, if not, you know, more important sometimes when you talk about security as well. So, anything else, guys? I mean, we're just sort of waiting to see what happens with the state, since that seems to drive most of our funding.
Well, certainly, the state's going to be the largest thing on the horizon right now, and probably one of the more interesting things. Yeah, finally, I think in closing, one of the things we need to look at is, you know, how do our local property taxes look? Because I initially thought when I'd look at that, perhaps we would be somewhat high. We had the buildings and things in the last 6, 7 years. But you'll find on the graphic, On the operating funds, Hamilton City Schools in the county has the lowest effective millage rate. And we do have 4 districts out in the county that have an income tax, and we've looked at those and compared those as well in this calculation, as you should. And so we're certainly operating with less local dollars. It's certainly something we're going to have to continue to watch. Is that feasible going into the future? It's been since February 1993, the last levy that was approved. You won't find
That's been 20 years.
20 years. You
Right.
won't find too many districts that do that. We
talked about that. That's a whole cycle of students, coming through with no extra money.
Actually,
from local.
seven classes that
Right.
have gone through their entire career that there was no tax levy increase during that time. So yeah, we've done very well. And the goal, I remember when I came to this district, they just passed it. And the goal was make that last 4 years. Yeah, I
So
heard
we
that,
did pretty well.
I heard that time. I heard that time and time again. So yeah,
4 years
we've
equals
met
20.
the goal.
Yeah.
And so, but certainly we'll continue to watch those things.
So I guess that's the challenge for the board and the administration is what to do, again, depending what happens with the state. And then you even made reference to, you don't know at the federal level what may go on as well.
No, and with 13% of our funds coming federal dollars, and you don't know what's going to happen. We'll know more about that in the next 2 or 3 months as negotiations continue in Washington. But we've got a very, very good school district, and we're proud of what we accomplished. We're proud of our students, and we want that to continue. We are going to try to do everything we can to operate this district in a very prudent manner, yet doing everything we can to make sure that our students leave Hamilton with the education that will help them wherever they may go. If they're going to college, if they're going to a 2-year school, a 4-year school, if they're going into the workforce, we want them to be prepared and ready to face the challenges that everyone in this country is facing right now. We're doing a good job now. We want to continue to do that in the future. Yeah.
As you said, college and career ready, and then we also say life ready with our National Character Program. So the focus is all there. We'll just see how all the budgets play out and see what we can do. But again, I commend the board and the employees because it's been a tough 20 years, but every year we slice a little bit more off, but then it reaches a point where, again, you don't want to dismantle the district, and so you have to figure out what we can do, how to get extra revenue, or, again, decrease your expenditures, but it's always a juggling act.
Absolutely, and that's really the only thing you can do. You either increase the revenue or you cut the expenditures, and we've done so much of the latter that the next time we do it, it's really going to get in the classroom, and that's something I know the board's concerned with and the administration's concerned with.
Well, I commend you guys because you do a very nice job of doing that, but it does get a little tougher and tougher every year.
It does, but we'll do it. The future, no matter what happens, we're dedicated to continuing to make sure that our students have every opportunity to succeed.
Well, I think that's a great way to end. So we thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
And for TV Hamilton, I'm Joni Kopis for this edition of School Matters, because school matters. We'll see you next time.